In this video, I'm going to give you some step-by-step instructions on how to replace the spark module on your gas range. Doesn't matter if you have 4, 5, or 6 burners, the process is the same. And as far as the brand goes, if it says Kenmore, it means Sears hired somebody to make a nice stove for them and put their name on it. Could be a Frigidaire, Whirlpool, Electrolux. Doesn't really matter for this process much. Problem is, you'll turn any knob, you'll hear a click, but the burner won't start. Okay, and when they all fail like that, that's definitely a sign that it is your spark module that's gone bad. You can fix it, just get a portable lighter and you can light your burner. Well, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Just kidding. Now, to do this, you're going to need to turn the gas off and unplug your stove. And you have to pull the whole top of your stove off, which means we're going to pull all the grates off, the burner plates, and we're going to have to pull the knobs and the knob trim off before we can remove the top. So let's get started. Some manufacturers used to put these modules on the back of the stove under a panel where you could conveniently and easily replace it, but they stopped doing that, so you have to take the whole top off. To get the burners off, the first screws are the small ones. These are 3/16 head screws. Let's go ahead and remove those. Once you get those off, you can pull the burner aside. Underneath, you've got 1/4-inch head screws. We can just go ahead and back those out. Looks like we have a loose one here. Now, this isn't all that uncommon. And you'll notice this screw just pulls out and it's stripped. Now it's a tapered self-threading screw. They use these in the factories to make it faster to put them together. It's screwing into cast aluminum, so they're easily stripped. You want to be careful with that. You could drill it out, put a larger screw, but of course I'm going to show you a faster and easier way to solve that problem. We'll get to that a little bit later. But just go ahead around and remove all the burners and then remove the 1/4-inch screws that are underneath. And be careful not to damage the white porcelain insulator on these igniters. If you damage those, you will have to replace the igniter. It won't work. And once you remove them all, then you're ready to remove the knobs. And then the knob trim is going to have to come off. And to do that, we'll have to open the oven door. You've got 4 screws holding the knob trim in place. And once the screws are removed, you'll notice on the top, there's 2 slots on the top of this trim piece. They slide onto a couple of tabs from above. So when we put it together, we'll have to pay attention to that. Now there's 4 screws you're going to notice here, 2 on top, and there's 2 down below. The ones below you do not have to remove. Just remove the 2 screws that are holding the top to the 2 tabs. And once those are removed, we're almost ready to pull it off. But first, we have to tuck these burners down below. Keep them out of harm's way, and again, be very careful. You don't want to damage those electrodes. Now we're ready to slide the top back. And we can set that aside. And there's your culprit right there on the left. That's your spark module. And I'm sure this was covered in my 1-year manufacturer's warranty, but since this one made it about 10 years, I'm not complaining. The one we're replacing it with couldn't look much different. Here, I'll pull this off and so you can see them side by side. The one we're pulling off only has 5 outputs, and this new one, which is a very different shape and appearance, has 6. But it still snaps into the same mount. The biggest difference is the one on the right, you see it's got 5 outputs and the new one's got 6. Now, the one you bought may have come with instructions and a ground wire. If it didn't, I'll show you how to handle that. You just make your own ground wire, and we're going to have to take that extra 6th output that we're not using and ground it to the stove. The power supply tabs are the same. One's bigger than the other. You can't get it wrong. But that extra igniter output, what we're going to do is we're just going to snip off about 1 foot of wire here, and we're going to put a terminal on one end. But before we do that, we're going to put some of this heat shrink on. And the only reason we're doing that is a little extra safety. We're going to make sure there's no way a spark's going to be able to jump from the terminal to the stove. You don't have to do this. I'm just doing this to be a little bit extra cautious. And you'll notice here, if you don't use the heat shrink, then you've got a bunch of bare metal here where it's coming out. The whole point of the heat shrink is to just prevent any spark from escaping that connection. It's really easy to do. Just go ahead and shrink it onto the wire here. And now you'll notice when we plug it in, there's no way that a spark is going to be able to escape that. Okay, now the other end of the wire, I have to strip it off and put a loop to put the screw through. That's what we're going to use to ground it to the stove. And that's ready to go. So back onto the stove here, we're going to go ahead and start connecting the power supply first to this replacement module. And again, you can't get it wrong. One of these is bigger than the other. And then we're going to plug all the burner igniters on and snap it back into place. Now the ground wire is going to screw in the back here. So just go ahead and plug that into the extra output, that 6th output. And we're just going to screw it down to the back here. Now, before we put the top, I'm going to show you these two mounting tabs. There's one on the left, one on the right. And those are in the back. And then in the front, we have these tabs. And the top has to slide under those tabs. That's fairly important. So when you put it on, you'll notice that when I lay it down, I'm just going to pull it forward slightly, and you'll hear it drop into place. Then you can slide it back. And just to make sure that it's hooked in the back, go ahead and try to lift it up. If it doesn't lift up, you know you got it right. Now we're ready to put our burners back on. And remember, this burner up front had a loose screw. And again, you could go ahead and drill that out, put a bigger screw, or I will show you a quicker and easier way to solve that problem. First, let's put in the screws that aren't stripped. That'll help hold the burner base in place. The one that is stripped, this is picture hanger wire. I choose it because it's made out of steel. It's got fine wires that it's made up of, and most people have it on hand. So just take 2 of those fine wires, and what we're going to do is we're going to take those, bend them at 90 degrees, and then we're going to stick the long end into the hole, and then we're going to hold it in place with the top that we bent over. And while we're holding it, we're going to go ahead and start our screw. So now we've got the 2 wires and the screw going into the screw hole, and that should be nice and snug. If it's not, you could put a 3rd wire in, but in this case 2 was more than enough, and now that burner is ready to go. What you'll need to do with some of these is put your finger in there and pull them up to the surface and line it up while you hand start the screws. And just work your way around and get all those started by hand, and then you can go ahead and snug them down with your wrench. Great, now we can put the burners on, and you'll notice where the igniter is. You've got a recess in the burner. It's hard to get that wrong. Now we can put our little 3/16 head screws on. Those are the ones that hold the burner to the surface. Now, of course, for the middle one, it's just held down by gravity, so you can just put that back in place. And once those are done, what we're going to do is we're going to plug it in without the gas turned on. And that's because before we put everything together, we want to make sure that, in fact, we have a spark. And sure enough, I ran around and all the burners have a good, strong, healthy spark. So now we're ready to put the stove back together completely. So it's unplugged again. We're going to put our burner caps on. We're going to put our grates back in place. But before we can put the knob trim back on, we need to screw the top back down to those tabs that are slid up on top of it. You might need to move things around a little bit to get those aligned. Okay, so once you get the holes lined up, go ahead and get the screws started. This first one, I'm not going to tighten all the way because you may need to move the top around a little bit to get that second one aligned. But once that second one's in place, you can tighten them both down all the way. Now you'll remember with this knob trim piece that we're putting on, there's those 2 slots on top. Those have to slide onto those 2 tabs from up above. And so that's also pretty tough to get wrong, and once you get it into place, put your first screw in so it'll stay up, and then the other 3 are real easy to put in. And of all the knobs, only one has a larger slot on it. That's the big 16,000 BTU burner. The rest of them are all the same, so just put them anywhere. At least on this one they were. Now we're ready to turn the gas on, plug it back in, and now we can set the clock. And when we run around and test all the burners, they all worked. So this was a good fix. If this video helped you out, please do give a thumbs up and subscribe for future videos. And to help out anyone else trying to fix one of these, please do share this video. Thanks for watching.